For sure. So, well, it's great
Hmm.
to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into the new music, your world of music, your career. So, thank you for taking a minute out today.
My pleasure.
So, before we get into the new album, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything, rearranging our lives. How did you get through that era, and how did it either influence the way that you make music now or the way that you live?
Okay. Uh, well, during the pandemic and lockdown and all of that, I spent, like a lot of people, I spent time just writing music, um, uh, and uh, and talking to other musicians. Sometimes trying to play over things like Zoom or whatever, which was very hard in terms of latency and everything else like that. Um, and what came out of it, I think, was a whole body of work, especially for string quartets. So, for instance, in the release, my latest release, the Escarpment, that first, the first track, Chiffon, was actually music that was written during the pandemic for string quartet, and then augmented by various other things, like my own solo violin and percussion and electronics and so forth. It's something I've been doing a lot of lately, is taking traditional notated music and then using it as sounds that I could move around and manipulate, and then combining it with maybe other soloists, electronics. So, kind of using the old way of organizing music with notation, with the new way of organizing music with the computer and audio software.
So, what are you hoping the listener gets from this new album?
Good question. Um, as with all of my music, I I just hope that someone hears it somewhere, and it does something for their soul. That's the best part of being a musician, I guess. You put something out there, and sometimes you even get responses from people. For instance, in my living room, I have a beautiful big painting from a woman in London who listened to another album of mine that I did with string quartets, um, and was inspired to do this painting, which is gorgeous. And then
Yeah,
she sends it to me. That is the stuff, man. That is really, uh, you know, that's about the greatest reward for me, more
yeah.
than money or recognition, that you just communicated with another soul somewhere, and they were moved.
That
That's
is
the stuff,
wonderful. Yeah. So take me back to the beginnings of your life. Where were you born or raised? How did the violin become the instrument? How did jazz become this career?
Oh, wow, that's a long story. Um, I grew up in New England, uh, Connecticut, actually, which sounds really like privileged and genteel, but actually, my parents were the servants of the rich. We were the managers of a country club in Litchfield, Connecticut, uh, but that didn't make us, you know, any part of the Yankee establishment. We were just running around slinging cash for them. Um, uh, so I took up music, the violin, the guitar, when I was about 9 or 10 years old. Not because anybody made me do it, but because it just occurred to me. I was kind of bored. What do I do with all this time, you know? And so I just began to explore all of those things. And that became my life, you know, eventually. I just donated most of my free time to hanging out in my room, practicing music, creating music, even as I was younger. That um, that transpired into when I was in my late teens, taking a lot of trips to New York City to play like Folk City, places like that. I played with a very successful folk singer, Bill Horowitz. Horowitz was his name. He wrote a bunch of very successful songs about Watergate. It was about that era right there in the mid
Yeah.
70s. Um, so one had lyrics like, if I had a friend like Rosemary Wood, how simple my life would be. I'd take my problems to Rosemary Wood, and she would erase them from me. I don't know if you remember that story in Watergate, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. So we were successful. We played around New York a lot. Greenwich Village was like a small town then, very friendly. Lots of musicians just walking around, you know, say, "Oh, hey, man, you got an instrument. You got to play someplace." Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty good. Then I moved to Boston. Uh, well, studied at both Berklee College of Music, studied jazz there, and also regular composition at New England Conservatory with a guy named Donald Martino, uh, Pulitzer Prize winning composer who smoked a lot and was kind of nervous. And I had a violin teacher there named Eric Rosenblith, who was kind of the opposite of me being a kind of free spirit and him being very into discipline, which was good for me.
Yeah.
I would in the summer drive to his house for lessons on my motorcycle with the violin on the back. And he would totally freak out. He'd say, if you don't care about yourself, think of the instrument, you know, that sort of thing. So when I was in Boston, I became part of the jazz scene there. I had a band that included a drummer named Alan Dawson, a great drummer who'd been all over the world, played with everybody, and served not only as a great drummer in the band, but a great mentor, a guy to just hang out with after the gig and listen to him hold forth. Um, he was a great guy to hang around with and an important teacher at that time. Before there was jazz in conservatories, that's the way the music was really passed on from the old guy to the young guy. So I had that experience with a bunch of other older musicians eventually uh, in New York, especially people like Bucky Pizzarelli or Major Holly, who were very helpful and supportive, but also kind of just teaches you how to be a guy in the world and a musician at the same time. Have a you know a family, a mortgage, and also be a cool jazz guy. You know,
Yeah.
so those were important lessons back then. I don't know if that happens now, um, but there was a great openness. If you're just a young musician, you came in, hung around, they're like took you in, took you in. I guess maybe not everybody, but they took me in anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so from that, I did a lot of touring, played with a bunch of different people, ended up going all over the world touring. Played with also in the 80s, played with the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra and played at all the big halls around and stuff. That was interesting for a while. I was not enamored of the sort of rigid conformity of that life. I think especially string players and orchestras are, they all have the same kind of case, you know, the same kind of case. They use the same language to talk about the music, and I felt as if I wanted to expand from that. Um, and so I played straight ahead jazz a lot in the 80s into the early 90s. My wife and I had three children. They started to eat a lot of food, and uh, and you know, they want expensive sneakers, all that kind of stuff. So I got a teaching degree from Columbia University, um, and so for about 20 years I was a teacher, full time, and still went on the road sometimes, which is dicey, you know, like they don't like it when you go away for like 3 weeks to Europe or something like that.
Yeah.
But I worked for a guy, my boss said that important part of being a teacher is to be an interesting person. And if you go to South America for 3 weeks and tour, that's bound to make you a more interesting person.
Yeah.
And maybe that's right. But how many people are that smart? I don't know. I know that. And then when I was in New York, I got more into genre free styles and more into different kinds of structures, different kinds of way of looking at music. So that helped me become who I am now, whatever that is. But I'm big into like letting structure emerge.
Yeah.
So with classical music, you have a structure that's there, a piece, and you then create a process to perform it. I'm into the opposite. I start with a process. That is, you play. But since we are humans and always drawn to structure, it comes. At least for me, it does. And so I have this emergent structure idea of creating music now. So even when I compose it, when I'm writing it, I start out by just playing. And I don't know how many other people do this, but I play, you get to something and say, okay, those two notes are pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start there. And then you build out those two notes, and maybe they become six notes. And from there, that's the way it emerges.
So let me ask you this. You know, the violin, especially in the world of jazz, is kind of a niche instrument. I mean, you got Regina Carter, Kansas City had Claude Fiddler Williams. There's just kind of been this cadre of violin players. Was there anybody that you were specifically swayed by that maybe influenced the way that you approach the instrument?
All right. Yeah. Well, when I first started playing jazz violin in the 70s, there were about three people doing it. You know, but thank you for mentioning Claude Williams, who definitely I was into. Also, Steph Smith and Joe Venuti, Stefan Grappelli. Um, there weren't a lot of other people around doing that. Ray Nance did it a bit. Sven Asmussen was another guy who played jazz violin back then. And yeah, I had to like soak that up big time. You know, it was kind of a niche. It's an instrument that you have to add a lot more rhythmic kind of information to, which is was great. You know, with Alan Dawson, it's taught me a lot about jazz rhythm, you know, what drives jazz rhythmically. So you have to think about it in terms of rhythm. Yeah, I think you have to have this sort of fluid understanding of harmony so that when you play over a tune, you have a good sense of where the harmony is and how you flow with that and so forth. Um, so those are really two aspects of playing that they don't teach you when you take violin lessons, you know. Yeah. You have to develop that through some kind of jazz channel. That's two things. It back then it was a real niche instrument. Now, hell, man, there's a zillion people doing it now, um, to greater or lesser degrees of success. It's something that I haven't really done strictly in a long time, you know. So even though uh, my new record, The Escarpment, is a jazz record and calls to my jazz past, it's not really like the jazz I played in the 80s and 90s at all.
So let me ask you this. What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What's consistently been a driving force for you to evolve into your art form?
Uh, you know, at my age now, the thing that I take the most from music is almost like a spiritual thing, you know. I get up every day and I play. I pick up the instrument, I play a note, a long note, and just get in touch with the sound. It's that sound. I try to connect with that. As long as I'm connected with that sound, then it becomes, I don't know, something that flows with my soul. And then that's more important than anything now. I think when I was younger, I thought more about uh, technique and sort of just learning music for a gig. Um,
Yeah.
but now it's got a whole other spiritual aspect to it, um, almost like daily prayer. Not that I'm a real religious guy, but daily prayer kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah. What was the first live show you saw that blew you away, that made you think, I want to get up there and do this one day?
yeah. Well, first live shows are probably rock bands when I was, 12 years old or something like that. And probably if it was live, it was mostly bands around where I lived. In fact, me and my friends did started, we had a garage band, and it was probably awful, but we thought we were pretty good. And we used to go play at the dances and so forth like that. Um, um, but as I got older, I went to like more interesting, hipper kind of things, and I always liked all kinds of music. So anything from bluegrass to classical, jazz, folk music, anything really, it's good. Um, so by the time I became an urban creature, I had access to all of that. I could go out all the time and check everybody out. Um, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, students, fans, everyone that you play with on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Hmm. You ask everybody this?
Yeah, I do. It's the therapy hour.
Okay. Well, who do I think I am?
Yeah.
I am someone who is connected to the rest of the world, you know. So when I play music, I think about that connection. Mm, not so much, you know, a monetary commercial connections, but just that communication that goes on from between the musician and the audience. That is what I see my role as. It's just part of that connection. Maybe even something that triggers that connection. I must say, I'll brag a little bit. In August, I played at the Newport Jazz Festival with my son. We were both up there. That was a beautiful moment because I took him there. when he was like 12 into his teens and stuff. Like we'd go there. It was like a father son kind of thing to do. And then we ended up playing there together. It
That's
was
cool.
gorgeous. And what that communicated with the audience there, I mean, they just ate that
Yeah.
up. That the connection between family and how you could connect that feeling with a whole big audience full of people in their t-shirts and shorts there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, if anyone wants to catch you live or pick up a copy of the Escarpment, where's the best place to go? How can people figure that out?
Well, you go on my Bandcamp page. You can go on the label's Bandcamp page and Frequent Seams. That's probably the quickest way to do it. It's also on all of the streaming services. I am not on a tour or anything like that anytime soon. I wish I could tell you I'm coming to your town, but it may be a while. So I would check out all of this stuff. The way I think a lot of people experience music now, anyway, on various outlets. You can also get it, the whole cadre of other music I put out recently. Uh, you know, so over the last half a dozen years, I put out a lot of stuff. Been
Okay.
busy with that. Maybe COVID had something to do with that too. You know, just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, having that time to record, to just create, not be
Yeah.
distracted by other things.
A moment to breathe. I will put a link in the show notes so that people can get involved. Richard, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Continued success with everything.
Great to talk to you, Joe,
Yeah.
and great success, continued success to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.